Hey everybody, sorry for the long absence, but make sure to stay to the very end for a special announcement about how you can star in the next episode of The Bag of Holding.
So you think that this toy is your honor? I wish you had adopted this toy. Yes! Fight me! Fight me!
18, 19. Back in the original Animal Crossing for GameCube, there was only one Gyroid, this little guy that Tom Nook puts outside your house when you buy it. The Gyroid serves the function of saving the player's progress, although it can also be top messages to display to visiting players. The player can even auction off items through the Gyroid with whatever price they set, or simply put an item on display. In every game after the original, the saving function of the Gyroid was instead moved to the player's bed, but a whole new array of furniture came in the shape of dozens of new Gyroids. When wandering about the town, the player might find a dig spot, and every once in a while, if they don't find a fossil or one of those freaking pitfall traps, you're so funny for burying those all over my town, David! They might find one of these Gyroids. When placed in your house, the Gyroids will, well, gyrate, and produce a signature noise at a regular interval. The Gyroids are divided up into dozens of families that all make similar noises, including the Alloids, Clankoids, Gongoids, Lullaboids, Tootoids, wait, the what? Every family of Gyroids has a name reflecting the sounds they make, like the Bovoids that make mooing sounds, or the Haloids which make, honestly, rather horrifying screaming sounds. They usually have a unique color, apparel, or features that reflect their category too, like the Botoids and their adorable little bow ties. And they come in all sizes ranging from mini to mega.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a treat.
All of the Gyroids will also adjust their tempo to whatever music you currently have playing in your house and make a little Gyroid orchestra. This was honestly my favorite thing to do in Animal Crossing Wild World, just fill up a room full of Gyroids and make them dance to some sweet KK Slider. The good old days. There's also one other Gyroid in City Folk on New Leaf that is very different from the others, and his name is Lloyd. This fancy-talking sentient Gyroid first shows as the host of the auction house in City Folk, letting players auction off or bid on items, and then he shows up again in New Leaf as the overseer of the town's public work projects. He also shows up to lend the player various tools on Tortimer's Island or in the Dream Worlds. There's a couple of familiar things about Lloyd too. His appearance calls to mind the very same Gyroid outside the player's house in the GameCube Animal Crossing, and he even has the habit of gyrating faster and faster as the player approaches. Therefore, it's likely that Lloyd is actually one of the original Gyroids that somehow gained its own personality. How? Well, there's a few interesting things about Gyroids that might explain that. The Gyroids are actually based on Japanese terracotta clay figurines known as Haniwa. How do we know this? Well, for one thing, in Japan, the Gyroids are actually just called Haniwa. So that's a pretty big clue. Haniwa were ritual objects made in the Kofun period of Japan between the 3rd and 6th centuries. Kofun derived from the name of the burial mounds common in this era. They originated in the kingdom of Kibi, but eventually spread to the other regions of Japan. In the early days of their implementation, Haniwa were buried with the dead or placed on top of these funeral mounds as part of funeral rites, believed to help protect the dead, or in some cases, represent something which is meant to travel with the deceased into the afterlife. Sort of like the belongings and offerings buried with the pharaohs in ancient Egypt. Although they originally started as meter-tall cylindrical humanoid sculptures with a simple torso, skirt, and head, Haniwa later came into many different forms, ranging from animals like horses and chickens to various tools or weapons. They were also often painted in various colors and with different equipment and decorations, much like the Gyroids. Later on, as Haniwa grew in popularity and became more intricate, they were moved from the top of the funeral mound towards the outside of the grave area, functioning as a sort of boundary marker. This is where the name Haniwa actually comes from, meaning circle of clay. The Haniwa are of great historical significance, their clothing and tools representative of those used by the Japanese in the time they were made, so they really represent the evolution of Japanese culture. They've also become a sort of fascination for artists and historians in a modern context, although their representation of pop culture has been exaggerated and simplified, resulting in a cylindrical shape with large hollow eyes and mouths, and two simple arms bent in either direction. As you can see, it's this form that most reflects the form of the Gyroids, but there's more at work here than physical inspiration. Think about where the villager finds the Gyroids. Underground, dug up while searching for fossils. The Haniwa, too, were buried underground alongside the dead. Does this mean we're digging up old funeral mounds and stealing offerings to the dead? There's something else disturbing in the lore of the Haniwa as well. Humanoid Haniwa were sometimes equipped with weapons or tools, perhaps to ward off evil spirits, but some rumors and superstitions insinuate that the Haniwa weren't just empty vessels. Instead, the soul of the deceased inhabits the Haniwa, granting it sentience. Meanwhile, in Animal Crossing, after you dig these guys up and place them in your house, they start moving and making noises on their own, not powered by anything and with no other reason to be moving than possession. The idea of these things being possessed makes some sense though. You accidentally dig up these funeral mounds and you take the object that contains the soul of the deceased, so it's able to make these gyroids move and produce rhythmic sounds. Although the premise seems dark, these spirits are most likely benevolent, simply enjoying the company of the living and any music they happen to hear. This also really explains the nature of Lloyd. Lloyd, unlike all of the other characters in Animal Crossing, speaks with Elizabethan English, as though he comes from a much older time. It's likely that the spirit of someone from the Elizabethan era is inhabiting the gyroid that we know as Lloyd. Maybe he started like the other gyroids, being unable to speak, but the character in the first Animal Crossing changed all of that. The player uses Lloyd to save their progress, which is essentially storing their memory of the town and their experiences into something. Thus, Lloyd is possibly learning some reminder of humanity from this. Memories, language, life. Furthermore, he learns from his simple functions of repeating messages and putting items on auction how to communicate again, and he decides to use his newfound skill as an auctioneer to open up his own auction house. Through his interaction with the original character, Lloyd relearns how to be alive. It's kinda awesome, really. This also explains how Lloyd is able to accompany the player into dream worlds. The villager is actually asleep when he or she visits these worlds, taking rest in the dream suite, so perhaps Lloyd is the only one who can cross into the dream world because he is an ethereal spirit that's simply being housed in a gyroid. It's pretty cool, and looking at things like this makes the origin of the gyroids a lot less creepy. However, there's one thing I haven't mentioned yet. Say goodbye to your innocence, boys. There's a strange occurrence that can happen to you in the original Animal Crossing if you turn off the game while in another player's town. For anyone wanting to try this at home, make sure you drop your items off in town before you do it because you'll lose them all. Upon starting the game back up, Kiki will express distress, saying that you were supposed to be out of town, but they can load up the data you left behind. When you gain control, you'll notice very quickly that your character's face has been completely erased and replaced with this creepy visage. No, get it away from me! Too many bad memories come from me traveling between my 2 memory cards to get extra KK songs. It wasn't worth it. So let's think about what this means. Your character is meant to be in another town, but has somehow been lost. You load up the data you left behind to play. Where did you leave this data? Stored in the gyroid. And when you start, you have the face of a gyroid. Does that mean that this isn't your character at all, and instead this is actually one of the many gyroids like Lloyd that was used to save data living in your stead, using your memories to continue where you left off? Furthermore, what if the Lloyd that we know wasn't just a gyroid that learned how to be a real boy, but instead a replacement for one of those poor souls that got lost in a foreign land? living out a life that is not truly his own. It's a pretty big what if, as it's apparent that the Gyroid-faced villager and Lloyd look nothing alike, so unless they can change their clay shape at will, it doesn't seem likely. And the intention of the Gyroid face is likely to remind players the importance of saving his or her progress before quitting the game, much like Rossetti. But it is a creepy alternative to an otherwise happy-go-lucky world.
Yep, this thing's going in the bag of holding. Finally here, performing for you. If you know the I'm not gonna do the DK rap, but you get the point. I'm back, and I'm sorry it's been so long. I know if I was a month later, it would have been, what, a year since the last video? Sorry! Just to give you some quick information, I ran into a lot of problems trying to get this damn video out. I won't go into all of that. You don't care. But sadly, I still can't commit to the schedule that I would like to have. You know, there's still a lot going on with school and all of that. But I would like to have about a video out a month at the least. So most likely you're going to see new episodes at the end of every month, as much as I can. However, to make up for how slow things have been, I'm going to actually let you guys have a chance at being in a video. There's 3 ways that you can do this, and 2 of them involve Patreon. If you want a 100% guaranteed way to get into a video, go over to Patreon and check out some of the higher tier rewards. If you pledge enough per video, then you can actually just star in an episode just like that. And you get a bunch of other cool perks like art from my artist or a shout out for your channel. The second way is a lot easier. Any patron who donates at least $1 a video, just $1, which means you're spending $1 a month at most, you will automatically get entered into a drawing to find out if you can be in the next bag of holding. On top of this, just for being a $1 patron, you get access to the special Discord server for Nordic and Nerdy, so you get to talk to me and a bunch of other patrons whenever you want, as well as have early access to bag of holding and monster manual videos and knowing whenever streams are going live. Now, if you don't want to spare the money, there's a 3rd way that you can do it without spending a damn thing. All you have to do is link this video to 5 friends on Facebook or Twitter, make sure to tag me in the post so that way I see it, and that's all you have to do. If you do that, you get added to the drawing, and it helps me grow. As a final announcement, this Friday the 22nd, I'm going to be going live on Twitch at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time and continuing the Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke run and the quest to slay the Weather Trio. So be sure to join for that as well. I'll see you guys around.